Hello and welcome back to Master Gardening. I'm your host Bud Qualk, and today we're going to do a little asexual propagation. Don't go away, I'll be right back. Today we're going to do a little asexual propagation like I promised. And what asexual propagation is definition of is stem propagation. It could be stem tips, that type of thing, or just basal stems. We'll get into that a little bit more later too. But there's all different kinds of propagation. Most people are interested in seed propagation. That's what sexual propagation is. There's micro engineering propagation. There's cultured tissue propagation. There's storage bulbs, which are your tulips and those types of things. But today we're going to talk about stems. This is my favorite part of gardening. I really don't enjoy the mulching and the weeding and all that stuff. I like the pruning a little bit, but when I do stem propagation or seed propagation, I'm putting plants on the earth that wouldn't be on the earth without Bud making those plants. So it's really exciting. This is the time of the year I love the best, even more than spring. So let's get busy. Let's start out with the soil first. There's different kinds of soil. And I've got a couple samples here. This is what's called seed starting mix, and it's real fine. It doesn't even have to be soil at all. It can be a non-soil, but it's very fine particles, mostly vermiculite, perlite, and maybe some sphagnum peat moss in there. You can make your own or you can buy it. Seed starting mix. Now there's a bunch of different bags out there. Be sure and use the seed starting mix. Look for that word, seed starting, if you're going to do seeds. If you're not going to do seeds, if you're going to do stem propagation, you need a little bit bigger particles. Okay, this is potting mix. You can't tell a whole lot of difference, but it is a little bit bigger particles. You can see right there, Dan. This bag has been around a while, so it's kind of pulverized, but a little bit bigger particles. It gives air to the soil for the roots. Now, don't get potting soil. Potting soil is good for your garden, but it's not good in your greenhouse or in your pots. Potting soil can be good, but most of the time it clumps up and gets hard and doesn't give that air, doesn't allow the plant to aerate. Okay, we know what kind of soil we need, and I'm going to go ahead and use this bag. You can use any kind of container, pots, square pots, you can use bowls, anything that, oh, what? Get that, Dan? Okay, you'll find out that I'm relatively nasty and messy. I've got a greenhouse and I'm used to it. If you're doing this in the kitchen, you want to put down some towels or newspapers. You don't want to get in trouble. Okay. You'll see this pot's got a little rim up here on top. That's on purpose. That you don't want to fill it all the way to the top because then you can't water it. I've done that myself many times. You want to leave you about a half an inch to an inch depending on how big your pot is for watering. Okay? Okay, now we got the medium. We're almost ready to go. Okay, let's digress just for a second. The difference between an amateur seed starter or amateur gardener, a propagation gardener, is the difference between that is a book. If you're an amateur, you get you a book, you can become an expert overnight. This is my book. It's Plant Propagation by Alan Toogood. Toogood, that's they're related to Tammy. Mr. Toogood is, just kidding. But everything in this book on how to propagate every single plant that exists on the planet. You can go to your library and don't have to pay for one. So get you a good book. It's very interesting reading, especially in the wintertime. Okay, now the other thing people say is, I don't have any place to grow plants in my house. I don't have any place to start seeds. I don't have any place to do these stem cuttings and propagating. And they're wrong. They just haven't looked. You either have a greenhouse. Most people don't have greenhouses. You have a sunroom. A lot of people don't have sunrooms. You have a southern window. Or even better than that, you have, Tammy, hand me that light over there. A light to put in your basement, if you've got a heated basement, if you've got a heated garage, if you've got a utility room, storage room. It doesn't even have to have lights. Get your fluorescent light. This I bought back in 1970 for $5. The whole thing cost me $5. You can prop it up on books or bricks or whatever. You turn this on maybe 14 hours a day. I grew my best plants I've ever grown in my life in my heated basement in southern Illinois before I really became serious about gardening. The best plants. They're really stocky. They were by far the healthiest. You take this and put it just above the plants, or your plant cutting, and as the plant gets bigger and bigger, you slowly raise that light up so it just stays a few inches above the plants. It won't burn them, these fluorescent lights are cold, but just stay a little bit above the plants and raise it up as the plants get bigger and bigger. There you go, Tammy, thank you. So now, no excuses out there, everybody can propagate. By the way, this is rosemary, for those of you that are truly amateurs. Rosemary that has been done, have been propagated exactly like what we're going to do here in just a minute. These plants are probably almost a year old, but they were taken from cuttings off a plant just like this rosemary plant here. This is so simple. This is so simple. Almost every single plant on Earth can be propagated in this manner. Let's take a cutting off of one of these plants behind us here, Dan. Okay, let's just take a stem off of here. Coleus, this is a coleus. It's very easy to propagate. You can stick this in water in a root, but I prefer to go ahead and put it in the soil. This is the procedure you use for almost every plant cutting. You cut right below a leaf node, like I did right there, and then you cut right above a leaf node, okay, like up here. You can see this has already been cut from before, that last year. It never did finish out growing. Cut right above a leaf node, right below a leaf node. Now many times they say cut straight across on the bottom, at the top cut at an angle just above that leaf node. The reason for that is sometimes it's confusing which one's the top and the bottom when you get into this. So I've cut both top and bottom, get rid of all the major leaves, because one of the things the plant's not going to be able to do now is supply all that water and moisture to those big huge leaves. So you're going to take the leaves all off, except for maybe I'm going to leave a couple little ones on top. You can go ahead and take them all off if you want, but you leave a couple on top, be fine. Okay, that way it won't be stressed. If you leave all these big leaves on here, you're going to come in the next day and this is going to be wilted over because it's not going to be able to supply enough water. Okay, you cut, you dip in a little water, dip in a little root-tone, knock off the excess, and then stick. That's it. Okay? When you do this, the terminology is called sticking. I've stuck that plant. Okay, let's do another one. Let's do one of these over here, Dan. I'm going to go ahead and cut right below that leaf node. I'm going to cut right above that one. Pull all these leaves off. That'll be fine. Remember, I just cut right below that little leaf node. Get a little water on it so the powder will stick to it. Put it in a root tone, knock the excess off, because they say that'll rot, but I've never seen it before. Then you stick it. Now what you can do is use a pencil to start your hole when you stick it in there. That way you won't rub off all the powder, but I've never had to have a problem with it. Okay. Now, the root tone. What in the heck is this powder? You really don't need it. You can just go ahead and stick it without it. It'll probably do fine. But if you want a little insurance, this is a rooting hormone, root tone. Root tone is not the brand name, that is what it's called. That's its generic name. You have all kind of brand names. You can get this at any of your nurseries, Lowe's, Walmart's, any of those places. Look in the gardening center. There are other ways to do this. There are some liquids, there's some fancy, schmancy root material. But this is the cheapest and easiest, and I like the way this is handled. You don't have to use any more than you have to. If you use the liquid, you pour it out, and then usually you have to throw it away because it gets dirty. Root tone. Little water, little root tone, and stick it. Let's do some more, Dan. Let's try some of this rosemary. This is kind of a weird rosemary here. Oh, man. Okay, you cut right below stem cutting. Okay, peel all this other stuff off. Okay, on rosemary you can leave all this extra because the leaves are so small. Dip it, take it, knock the excess off. We get done with this, I'll let Tammy take us home with you. Tammy, okay? Okay, now, when do you take these cuttings? Now's a good time to take cuttings. But you can take them all year long. You can take green cuttings, soft green cuttings, you can take semi-ripe cuttings, and you can take hardwood cuttings. Of course, it's very common or common sense to how The green soft cuttings are the really herbaceous part of the plant that's just come out, maybe in the spring. You can have it all year long. The semi-ripes, when that green starts stiffening up, so you can't really bend it like you can with the soft wood. And then the hardwood is when it's almost like bark. That's what this is right here. This is hardwood. This is not new wood. This is hardwood. It's kind of like, it looks like bark. This right here, of course, is green. See how green that is and flexible? And then it goes down here. This is hard again. This is hardwood. Okay, and then green wood is a little bit in between. There's reasons why you want to do one or the other. The greener the cutting is, the quicker it'll root. This hardwood will take longer. Okay, but there are some advantages to taking hardwood. The greener it is, the more susceptible to disease, the more susceptible to pests, and if you aren't careful and you leave too many leaves on there, that green will wilt. You'll come in the next day and it'll be wilted over. Usually it's going to make it. A lot of people might give up on it, but it'll be okay. Okay, the harder it is, the less chance for wilt. They're all going to root. You could take oak, cuttings off of an oak tree. I've got pussy willow right here. Where'd my pussy willow go at? There it is. This is a shrub most people are familiar with. Okay, let me get some more soil, not dirt, Dan, soil. You can have different types of cutting. You can find the really soft wood, you take scissors. The harder it is, the more you're going to need pruners. Okay, I'm going to cut this up in a bunch of different cuttings. Let's do about 6 inches each one of them. Okay, about 6 inches is a good size for a cutting. Take all the lower leaves off of here. Strip them all off. Okay, every single one of these will root. Now, yeah, there are going to be some times maybe when they won't, but most times, especially on a willow, every single one of them are going to root. Okay, now you can see the difference in these. You go from the soft green to the semi-green wood to the hardwood. You see that barkish that's really stiff and hard? Now if I put all these in the same pot, this one will root first probably, and then this one will root last, going right on down the line. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do it. We're going to stick all these in here. Really hard, tough, takes a long time, doesn't it? You can do a bunch. Once you get set up, you can do a bunch. Don't want to leave that leaf on there because that might rot, cause that to rot. Okay, I'm going to have 4 pussy willow trees or shrubs. I've got one big enough to be called a tree out of that right there. Okay, this is a little dry. Now, before I go working with my soil, usually I'll moisten my potting mix up a little bit to get it moist, a little bit moister than this is right here. But when you get done with this, immediately submerge it in some water. I had a bucket of water around here. Here it is. Okay. Bucket of water, a tray of water, whatever you've got, Dan. Stick it in there. Okay, and then I also might take a little bit of a spray and spray the top, because sometimes if it's real dry, it doesn't want to suck up the moisture. Okay, that'll be good. Okay, now I've got all my plants lined up over here, Dan, and on my tray over here that I've got all propagated. I set a plastic bottle of water nearby, so every time I walk by there, and by the way, this bottle doesn't work. It's one of our mechanical disadvantages, so I'm going to pretend it works. As I walk by that, I always try to remember to take the water and just spray them. How's that? Spray those leaves because they have trouble getting the moisture out of that soil until they get some good roots. So I help them out by giving them a little spray. Right? Okay. I didn't test the bottle before I came today. Sorry, Tammy. All right. Any questions? Okay. Let's do some more here. And by the way, like I said, you can do almost any plant in your yard, and what I like to do is, because I've already got the plants in my yard, I've got a pickup truck, and I put this all my utensils and stuff on the back of my pickup truck, and I drive around the neighborhood certain times of the year and take cuttings of hydrangeas and mock oranges and crepe myrtles that I know, oh, there's a pretty red one here. I don't have that red in my yard. Crepe myrtles, almost every single plant works, and I'd say I have 90% success. If I plant 10 of them, I'm going to get 9 of them are going to be good. Now this is one of my favorite plants of all time. Can you get me over here? Can you understand? Over here. Okay. This, ladies and gentlemen, is an angel trumpet. In Florida, these become 50-foot trees. Can you imagine all these blooms on a 50-foot tree? This is a yellow one. I've got a white one. I've got a purple one. I've got a pink one. This is all there is to it, and this will propagate every single time. Okay, oh, I'm sorry. They're going to kill me because of those blooms. Always take the blooms off your cuttings. They take up too much moisture. There we go, Dan. Too much moisture, so take all your blooms off. You hate it, but that's the way it goes. Okay. Okay, this is a very unripe cutting. See how that soft that is? So we got to take all these blooms off. All these leaves off, because it's going to this will, I guarantee you, tomorrow will be wilted. Cut that off and that off. Give it our best shot with all these leaves going off of there. Okay, take it, same thing, dip it here, knock it off, stick it in the pot, water it. Okay, that will be 10 times as big as the mother plant next year if you fertilize it properly. Okay, how do I know? For instance, I've got this pot with 4 of them in here. Sooner or later, you're going to have to repot these up into their own individual pots, right? Okay, how do I know when it's a good time to repot those? You just tug on them. If you tug on them and they come out like that, they're not ready. But if you tug on them and they resist your tug, you try to pull it out with a little bit of, like this for instance, you try to pull it out, it's not going to come, right? Because it's got roots in it. Same way with these. When you tug on them and they don't want to come out, you know you got roots. So you might want to go ahead and knock it out, knock this pot out into your container here, and then redivide your plants up one to a pot. I usually do that after a couple months. Each plant, depending on each plant, different, but that's what I normally do. Let's go back over here. Well, yeah, let's go back over here. Let's cut this right here. Oh my gosh, you see that? Ah, I'm gonna be killed. They're gonna kill me. Okay, there's one. Another one. Get rid of all this stuff. Like I said, the scissors works better on these really soft ones, more than the pruners do. And it looks like we're really killing this plant, but we're not. We're helping it propagate, helping it have its own little family, Tammy. This is a little bit stiffer. This won't wilt as much. Did I get any root tone on that? Okay, let's try it again. Let's get a little wet. Little root tone on there. And the bigger stems, you want to make a little hole. Okay, and this doesn't look like much, but that'll be fine. These are the kind of really do the best. This on a angel trumpet. This stiff. I've even had this twice as big as that, and it still does fine. Okay, now that needs to be watered and firmed up. There you go. All 3 of those plants will make it. I just guarantee it. I've had experience with these angel trumpets, and I'm the angel trumpet supplier for Western Kentucky now. All my garden friends, they put them out. They don't last through the winter, so you got to either take them in, or you got to let them just die, or you can propagate them like this. So I do a little of each, but at the local garden tour each year, I bring about 100 of these plants, and everybody gets their supply of angel trumpets. Okay. Now, little housekeeping here. By the way, these angel trumpet blooms don't do well if you put them in water. You know, I just put them in a piece of, and let Tammy take it home, but they don't do well. Some do. Okay. Let's do some geraniums. Okay, here's some geraniums over here. Like I said, this is called the hard and the soft. You want to take off this part right here. Maybe that. A little water, a little dipping. That's one. Good one here. Okay. Okay, we're going to clean up here. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Got some more surprises ahead on asexual propagation. Welcome back to the greenhouse here at the Trial Garden on Coleman Road, the Master Gardener's Trial Garden. And we didn't discuss labels, okay? If you do very many of these, you want to identify them. Buds plant, okay. Okay, and I've had all different kinds of labels. My favorite are popsicle sticks. One, they're cheap. You can get 1,000 for $5 at your Hobby Lobby store, and yeah, they will fade. But everything fades. And if they're gonna fade, then let's get something cheap. Popsicle sticks are my favorite. Some people use Venetian blinds, small Venetian blinds. Master gardeners like doing that. And while you were gone, Tammy emailed us with a couple of questions that she wanted covered. And I keep forgetting, Tammy is your typical amateur. Okay, so if I can talk to Tammy, then I'm getting through to our listeners. The seasons. You can take cuttings all year long, like I said. There are certain times of the year, depending on what plant you're looking at. And there again, you've got your handy-dandy propagation book or garden book to tell you what time of the year is the best time of the year. But I go by the ripe, hardwood, semi-soft, and green. Depends on what I want from that, and takes experience because I have better luck with the hardwood. In the wintertime, deciduous cuttings are good because the leaves are all gone. If you take deciduous plant cuttings during the summer, be sure and take all the leaves off, okay, because they won't be able to take it. The herbaceous, and what I mean by herbaceous is non-shrubs and trees. Your plants, perennials, annuals, those type things, house plants. Speaking of house plants, let's look at this baby right here. And believe it or not, there's some controversy whether that's a stem, or a leaf. Okay, we can do the same thing to this. Get a little water on there, a little bit of moisture to the powder will stick. Okay, and just stick that in the soil. Believe it or not, that will root. Okay, we'll add a little water to it later. Okay. A minute ago, we were talking about when these plants get roots, you pull on them and find out they have roots, and you knock them out of the pot. You say, oh, I'm going to kill the plant because the root's going to be exposed and everything like that. You knock it out of that plot, and you got the roots exposed, and this is a little bit more than what you're going to see on that. But the roots like this kind of stuff. When you disturb those roots and get them going, and then take them out of there and divide them and put them in another pot, they like it, okay? Because they're probably going around in circles, and that's not good. This way, you get some of the old dead stuff off of there, if there's any of that stuff, but you're not going to hurt the plant. As hard as you pull those out, divide them up, they're going to be fine, okay? Let's go back to another one of Tammy's emails. Soil. Okay, like we said, it's potting mix and seed starting mix, and you got potting soil, which you never want to use unless you're replacing soil in your yard or something. You've got a hole in your yard. But the potting mix and the potting soil, you can make it yourself. Okay, you don't have to buy the soil itself. You can make it, buy the different components. You can see these little white particles in here. Those are either vermiculite or perlite. Those are two non-soil elements. Hold a lot of moisture. They keep the moisture in there. Okay, then you can use sphagnum peat moss. You can use a number of different things. If you want to, and this was back in the old days, Tammy, this is back before the gardeners today, we used to put this on a tray and put it in the oven and cook it. That way all the organisms and the funguses would all be killed. Because many times when you planted plants, one of the most devastating parts of that would be damp off, or funguses would kill your plants. So we sterilized that. Many of the mixes you get today are already sterilized. Either they're non-soil mixtures or they're sterilized. So you don't have to put them in your oven anymore. But believe it or not, I have done that. Okay. Also, okay, you can put in this soil, and there's none in here. I wish I could show it to you, and I wasn't prepared, but you can put, there's little crystals. You can put these little ice crystals, water crystals that you can buy to put in your soil, and what they do is they swell up when you put the water in. It's like clay. They swell up and get real big and hold the water and the moisture in the soil also. That way you don't have to water this plant every day. Put the soil crystals, the water crystals in the soil itself. Be sure and soak those water crystals and you get them full before you put them in with the soil, because if you don't, when you add the water, they expand so much that they'll pop this plant clear out of the pot. Okay? I think that's it for Tammy's emails, right, Tammy? I think we need to sneak off for another of Tammy's commercials. I'll be right back. Don't go away. I'm your host, Bud Qualk. Thanks for tuning in to Master Gardening. Again, visit our website, Paducah2.org, or send me your questions at budqualk, all one word, budqualk, at newwavecom.net, newwavecom.net. I'll see you next time. Thank you for turning in today to Master Gardening. Thank you for tuning in today to Master Gardening. Don't forget our website, Paducah, numerical 2 at, start over. Don't forget to go out and visit our website, Paducah2.org, or email me with questions. Or email me with your questions, budqualk at newwave.
Microphone, stop hitting your microphone.